Today, we're taking the very first test drive on my 6.2 swapped twin turbo four-wheel drive Silverado that I've been building from the ground up over the last 4 years. And then I immediately broke it. But before we get to the part where I messed up, we had a few things to finish up on the truck before it could even safely hit the road. Before we get to today's action, I want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, LastFit. Now, I've been really happy with their LED lighting upgrades and the floor liners that we have installed in both the 2018 Daily Driver and the 03 Twin Turbo. But one more accessory that you truck guys might be especially interested in is their bed liner. Now, if you use your truck how it was intended to be used, you're definitely going to be chucking stuff in the bed of the truck, but you also want to protect it. You don't want to be scratching it up or dinging it or anything like that. And that's where the LastFit bed liner comes into play. Now, right off the bat, you'll notice you have wall-to-wall coverage, side to side, front to back. The entire bed is protected. It has this great texture on it, which provides grip so your stuff isn't going to slide around. But my favorite feature is how it has these raised edges all the way around the border. That way, if you spill something in the back, it's not going to get underneath the bed liner. It protects your investment. Now, it's made from TPE, which is a thermoplastic elastomer, an extremely durable material. It's going to last a long time, whether it's in the heat of summer or in the cold of winter. You got dirt or whatever you have back there. This is a really tough material. Now, super easy to install. Just take it out of the box, leave it in the sun for a little while so it flattens out, slide it in the back, and you are good to go. So, if you want to protect the bed of your truck, click the link below this video and use my code LT14. That's going to save you 14% off your order. Doesn't matter if it's for LED lighting, floor liners, or a bed liner like this. Keep your car or truck protected with some help from LastFit. We're going to be installing a larger set of injectors on our 6.2 twin turbo, but we need a quality set. An inexpensive, cheap injector can cause disaster for your very expensive engine. So for our quality set of injectors, once again, I turn to Lance from R&D Performance Fabrication. Now, we have picked up these guys right here. It's a 1650 cc fuel injector, 160 pounds per hour at 43 psi, which we're actually going to be running at 58 psi, so they'll technically be even a little bit larger than that. But these are an extremely high quality injector. They're made with Bosch parts. They'll have great flow characteristics and a great spray pattern, even at low pulse width, so like when we're idling or driving around in traffic. And I can run these on pretty much any fuel, whether it's E85, pump gas, race fuel, you name it, these injectors will work with it. But just as important as the injectors themselves is the data that comes along with that. Now, R&D Performance Fabrication works directly with Greg Banish, who's a name you really should know, to come up with the data for these injectors. So in short, we have an OEM quality injector in a really big size that's going to work, once again, for the horsepower goals that we have. So just for fun comparison, the injectors that we ran in Ugly Truck were 1000 cc's that they were rated at, and we made about 900 horsepower at the wheels on, it was like 70% ethanol. These are 60% larger. With two turbos under the hood of our drag truck, things are going to get warm. That's just the nature of the beast. And I've done a pretty good job of keeping anything sensitive to heat far away from the manifolds and the turbos themselves, the two hottest parts of the system. But the downpipe, specifically on the driver's side, does run kind of close to some things that I don't want to get too hot. So we're trying out some of this exhaust wrap. I've used it before a long time ago. I really dislike the product. Not because of its function, but because of the installation. Like anytime you go around a corner, you'll have to go around an obstacle like an O2 bung or my little tab that holds the wastegate pipe next to the downpipe. It just looks wrinkly and it doesn't ever come out to where I'm truly happy with it. Now, ideally, I wanted to have the service done where you send the parts out and then you have this like perforated stainless material with a thick fiberglass insulation behind it. They cut the sheets to fit the pipe and they spot weld it all together. That's really what I wanted to do, but I couldn't find here in the US anybody that did it. So we're trying the good old standby of exhaust wrap. So we got the driver's side all done, and I gotta say I'm a little bit happier with it now that it's kind of in. Overnight, the water kind of dried up a little bit, and it sort of tightened up some of the wrap somewhat. So yeah, I kind of like how it looks at least, and if it works by keeping some of the heat off of this sensitive stuff, then I guess it's worth it. Threw a turbo blanket on this side. I had this one, I can't even remember where I got it. It was forever ago. This is a name brand one, and this is an Amazon brand one because I went to price out a matching turbo blanket, and they're expensive for like a name brand turbo blanket. They're $250 to $300, which is insane. Amazon one is $30, and it's probably the same exact stuff. So don't cheap out on injectors, but turbo blanket, you could probably afford to save a couple of bucks there. So anyway, this side is pretty much done. I threw the O2 sensors in, the wideband in. Now all I got to do is pull this side apart and wrap it. I did not wrap the wastegate tube just because there's hardly ever any heat that's really gonna build up in the wastegate dump. Just, you know, if you're driving on the street, you only get in a boost every now and then. So the downpipe's the main one that we need to insulate. The manifolds, like we said earlier, they're far away from anything that gets hot. So one more to do, and then we'll flash a tune in, and we're almost at like test drive time. Well, got the passenger side downpipe all wrapped up, but I gotta say it came out a little nicer than the driver's side, so there's that. Tiny bit happier with it. It's still not perfect, but I mean, I was able to get a few less kind of loose spots in there, so it'll work. And this right here, injector data, this is the most important part of tuning. Lance works with Greg Banish like we talked about. We can just copy and paste that over into the tune. So the computer now knows how much fuel the injectors are going to spray each time they pulse on and off. Quick wiring project. We need to tune this thing using the wideband. My wideband has an analog output, which I bought because I used to have an older HP Tuners deal. But now I have the 4, but I need to use this little doohickey to work with that wideband. So we just have the analog output wires there. We need to connect to this, and then we should be able to get the wideband on that. And just a little while later, we have the two systems talking to each other. That 0.82, 0.85 lambda, or equivalence ratio, that's the information that we need. All right. After pretty much a whole year of working on this thing, we're ready for our first test drive with boost. Barely hear him starting to whistle. Now I don't have a big fuel pump in this yet. I just have a 340, which probably isn't gonna do what we need. So we're gonna kind of take it easy. And of course we're still getting the tune dialed in. That sounds so cool. I hope that comes across on camera. Definitely got some bugs to work out. It's, I mean, this is a brand new combo. Got up to like 4 or 5 pounds of boost on those few little light throttle runs. put fuel in it. Need to dial the tune in. But it feels so good to have it out of the shop, even for an easy drive like this. Try to get on it a little bit more at this stoplight. Those wastegates are loud. And the rest of the exhaust is kind of quiet. We may need to balance that out, make the exhaust a little louder. Spool's quick though. It definitely leans out a lot when you get into boost like that. So we probably need a fuel pump right now. It is so cool to finally be able to drive this truck under boost. This project has been years in the making, and we just had a successful first test drive. For the most part, everything went exactly like we expected. Coolant temp stayed perfect, even though it was like 100 degrees outside today. Well, it was like 92 or so. Transmission temp, it was a tiny bit warmer than I would like, but there is a pretty big intercooler in front of the transmission cooler. IAT though stayed right at like 102, which is awesome. Not that we were getting into a whole lot of boost just yet. But yeah, everything that we've done for the most part is working. I don't love how warm it gets under the hood. I mean, there's a lot of heat that we're pumping out, and we've managed it as best we could. So I don't think it's gonna be like an issue, but I just don't love how much heat is under there. But anyway, the big thing that we need to solve, obviously, we talked about it already, is fuel pressure. So here's what we got. These are a 75 amp 12 volt relay, which is entirely overkill, but I like it. And we have two of them. I already went ahead and built a little bracket that's gonna sit on the firewall right around the TAC module, kind of like so. I just tapped those with an M6. We're gonna use a socket head screw. So that's where our relays are gonna sit. But we are not going to have both pumps running constantly. They're gonna be staged. And the way we do that without an aftermarket ECU intervening is with a Hobbs switch. Pretty simple device. This one we picked up from Racetronics. It comes with the switch itself and a little bit of a pre-terminated harness that'll plug right in, so it has a neat kind of look to it. So at 4 PSI, this will kick on, and the second fuel pumps, plural, will come on, and the primary one is just going to be on all the time. So we'll have the stock relay controlling the primary fuel pump relay, and the Hobbs switch controls the secondary fuel pumps relay. And probably the most important part of building a street truck is having a cold street truck. So this is one thing that we did not have on Ugly Truck, is working AC. So we are about to find out if it actually worked. Chris is doing this for me. He's the licensed AC dude around the shop, so fingers crossed. Yeah! Turbo street truck, ice cold AC. Chris! Yeah? You did it! Look at that!
It's good.
That's cold! And one more totally random but really cool functional bracket that we built holds the two heater hoses from flopping around. Started with a stock bracket, but the stock one sits much, much lower. But we did cut it. We added some 5/16 steel rod in the middle, added another hole where it attaches to the coil with a nutsert, and now it holds our new heater hoses in a new, really cool place. So we got both relays installed and they're ready to send power to the back of the truck where a big fuel pump doesn't exist yet because it's still on the way. But I do want to confirm my suspicions before we swap the pump that the one that we currently have is not big enough. So I need 2 gauges to install, and then we'll go on another test drive. Number 1, fuel pressure gauge for obvious reasons. And number 2, because I would love to know how much pressure is actually inside the manifold without having to look at a data logger, read the KPA, convert to PSI, and then do the offset for the high elevation that we're at, I'm going to be installing a boost gauge because it tells us what we want to know at a quick glance. Now these 2 gauges are going to be very easy to install. Fuel pressure gauge just attaches to a Schrader valve on the passenger side of the engine. The boost pressure gauge attaches to the manifold block, vacuum manifold that sits on top of the engine. We'll run the wiring across the firewall into the cabin. And then, as long as our gauges work, we are ready for the next test drive. Except we're not, because as soon as I turned the key, you probably noticed we have no fuel pressure. And that's because I got a little bit too aggressive. Got that farm strong thing going on, I guess. Got a little too aggressive when I tightened down the fitting onto the fuel rail. I think they're like soldered or brazed together or something, but I twisted it off, so we have a big old fuel leak. Now I did try to repair the fuel rail so I could go back out and do some more test drives because this thing is so much fun, even on low boost and keeping my foot only halfway into the throttle because of the fuel pump. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to make that happen. We pulled it apart, we cleaned all the brazing material off of the rail, and I tried to TIG weld it together, but even with back purging, I kept getting a couple little pinholes in there, and the filler material that I was using, it just wouldn't flow correctly into the base material of the rail. I have ordered a replacement rail, but it won't be here till next week. And on top of that, we are still waiting for our big fuel pump, so that kind of puts the brakes on today's episode. But the good news is we went on our very first test drive. This truck, it feels amazing, and it wants to run. It just needs, we think, a little bit more fuel pressure. So next time, we got the big fuel pumps, which they might be at the house today, if not tomorrow. So a little bit of fabrication involved there, but before you know it, we'll be making some full boost rips on our twin turbo 6.2 4-wheel drive drag truck that we built entirely out of junkyard parts.